Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating shifts in the history of tabletop gaming, the metamorphosis of the Drelosites from the classic sci-fi RPG Star Frontiers into the enigmatic Plasmoids featured in Dungeons & Dragons Spelljammer setting. What began as a species known for their philosophical outlook, intrinsic charm, and unique physiology has, through the hands of creative evolution, transformed into a blank slate, shape-shifting blob with scarcely any background lore at all. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how these cosmic beings went from rich lore to a canvas of creative freedom. Back in the days of Star Frontiers, the Drelosites were a standout species. These short, amorphous beings possessed a flexible, rubbery membrane, but they're not single-celled organisms, nor are they colonies of cells like most oozes. They have nerves and such. They're just very alien, giving them both physical resilience and an unmistakable presence in the galaxy. Far from being mere combatants, Drelosites were contemplative and philosophical in nature. Their culture prized introspection over aggression. These creatures were often depicted as individuals who questioned the status quo, shunned the conventional chase of wealth and power, and found meaning in either immersive communities or by solitary reflection alike. In Star Frontiers, the detailed lore behind the Drelosites included distinctive cultural practices and unique forms of communication such as vibro-tactile interactions and even chemical signaling. These were not merely biologically interesting but also culturally rich. Their communities embodied values that discernibly separated them from the typical militaristic or conquest-driven alien species. Drelosites were home to philosophical debates on the nature of existence and the purpose of life in the cosmos, making them a beloved subject among RPG enthusiasts who craved depth, not just in mechanics, but in narrative and character study. Now fast forward to the era of Spelljammer, a setting that catapulted players into the wild, uncharted realms of space adventure within the D&D multiverse. As Wizards of the Coast began reimagining various elements from legacy systems, a pivotal decision was made regarding the Drelosites, with the expansion of the game and the aim to streamline races into the spelljamming narrative. These beloved beings from Star Frontiers underwent a significant transformation, emerging under the new moniker of Plasmoids. In the original texts, the Drelosite species are referred to as a plasmoid life form. So there can be other species of plasmoid if you just want to create them, and there's no reason your plasmoid character is not one of them, and the Drelosites still exist, but not as player characters, more like an interesting faction or culture far off in wild space somewhere. The Plasmoids retained a few of their physical quirks of their predecessors, most notably their amorphous shape-shifting abilities. You can think of them as the ultimate example of adaptability, able to morph, shift, and squeeze through the smallest crevices. However, while their mechanical traits were emphasized to generate engaging gameplay dynamics, much of the Drelosites' lore was excised in the process. Gone were the rich traditions and philosophical musings that had once defined them, and in their place, the Plasmoids became a species with virtually no well-defined background, history, or cultural framework at all. Now, it's a knee-jerk reaction to say Wizards of the Coast did this because they are lazy, or fired all the best writers, or doesn't care about the lore. Okay, the last one is probably more accurate, but look at the way the game player base has changed. Look at the way the publisher has been handing the creative freedom and removing restrictions from the game for a while now. From the publisher's point of view, they want the players to have a lot more control over their background, personality, and culture of the species, rather than presenting them as a fully fleshed out culture for the players to discover and become immersed in. It's an important distinction. Well, if you're gearing up for a future where the role of the Dungeon Master is gradually being replaced with a virtual digital player in the form of AI, you don't need to provide a lot of Dungeon Master tools. They actually took a step back from that in the latest Dungeon Master's Guide, with even less clarity on how challenge rating works, for example. So in the current design ethos, there's a growing trend to move away from bioessentialism, that is, the tendency of a race to a specific set of cultural or historical attributes. By providing a blank canvas in the form of the Plasmoids, they empower players and Dungeon Masters alike to invent their own intricate stories, cultures, and even complex intergalactic histories. This transformation, however, did come with a cost. It stripped away much of the inherent personality that once made the Drelosites so memorable. One of the most perplexing aspects of the Plasmoid transformation is the notable absence of a rich historical background. The lore associated with the Drelosites, filled with philosophical debates and cultural depth, simply isn't present in the Spelljammer iteration. Why was this celebrated backstory just jettisoned? Initially, one of the influencing factors was related to legal and trademark issues, and the original trademarks for certain Star Frontiers elements expired or were repurposed. Wizards of the Coast found themselves with a dilemma. How do you incorporate a beloved species without infringing on legacy content or being tied down by its established history? In response, the design team opted to sidestep these potential pitfalls by stripping the race of its detailed backstory, essentially leaving the Plasmoids as a generic, yet mechanically intriguing species. This is also an increasing modern trend in tabletop RPG game design towards flexibility and player-driven storytelling. Rather than prescribing a rigid cultural identity or history, elements which might limit creativity, these decisions were made to offer fewer fixed characteristics. The result is a race that, while fascinating in its physical form, serves primarily as an adaptable tool for narrative creation. The transformation from a species with defined cultural markers to one that is essentially a blank slate has notable repercussions on gameplay and role-playing dynamics, though. For players and dungeon masters who revel in world building, the sparse background of the Plasmoids presents an enticing opportunity. Without a stringent pre-packaged cultural framework, the Plasmoids can be molded according to the campaign's needs. With a race of cosmic philosophers who secretly gather arcane knowledge, well, then go ahead and make the Plasmoids. Go ahead. Prefer a mysterious, otherworldly force that operates by its own enigmatic rules, the Plasmoids can be re-envisaged accordingly. This freedom makes every Spelljammer campaign a chance to authentically create and develop a new community or culture from scratch, which is great. On the flip side, the painting by numbers approach can be a source of frustration. Long-time fans of the original Star Frontiers might find that, well, they feel that the unique, philosophical, rich character of the Drelosites has been diluted at best. The stark absence of predefined lore leaves many wishing for the narrative depth that the original species enjoyed, and for those who value a well-structured historical backdrop as much as engaging mechanics, the modern Plasmoids might seem like an incomplete puzzle, one in need of additional artistic effort to restore the lost grandeur. And the art, well, yeah, that's changed a lot too. It's all about balancing the love for canon with the freedom to innovate. While some players derive joy from crafting entirely new stories, and that's fine, others might find the gap a hindrance in immediate immersion themselves in the game. Both perspectives are valid, and they represent the evolving nature of tabletop gaming where narrative diversity is celebrated even as it presents challenges in maintaining consistency. The metamorphosis of the Drelosites into the Plasmoids has sparked varied reactions from the gaming community, those who are actually aware of what the origin of them are. For some, the idea of playing a being that is essentially a sentient blob capable of morphing through space is nothing short of exhilarating. They praise the mechanics that allow for creative gameplay, inventing, problem-solving, and unexpected role-playing moments born of the flexible character template. However, others lament the apparent loss of lore and culture, and the texture of the background. Die-hard fans of Star Frontiers often yearn for the return of the detailed, rich history and philosophies that once defined the Drelosites. This divergent encapsulates a broader debate in the RPG community. Should character races be handed down as vessels of predefined backgrounds, or should they be defined as frameworks for characters to craft their own epic sagas? Going off script here, if you look at the Magic the Gathering cards and the sheer variety of goblin art and things like that, a standardized racial background for goblins makes no sense from the designer's point of view, and you can clearly see that's the direction they're going. The consensus among many veteran gamers is that while the move to a blank slate can initially feel like a narrative loss, it ultimately invites players to engage in a deeper level with storytelling and world building. Dungeon Masters can take advantage of this creative ambiguity to craft lore that fits perfectly with their campaign's tone and themes, a custom narrative that might surpass the original depth and imagined for the Drelosites. As time marches on, the potential for Plasmoids in Spelljammer remains vast and largely untapped. With each new campaign, players and DMs have the opportunity to redefine what it means to be a Plasmoid. Perhaps future editions of the game will revisit their origins, slowly reintroducing snippets of lore that pay homage to the Drelosite heritage while embracing the liberated creative philosophy of the modern age. In any case, the transformation journey from a richly detailed species to a flexible narrative-conforming creature is emblematic of the innovation that has always defined tabletop RPG communities. It challenges us or to look at familiar themes through a different lens, to appreciate the old even as we embrace the new. In the grand tapestry of tabletop role-playing, few transitions illustrate the balance between legacy and innovation as clearly as the evolution of the Drelosites into the Plasmoids, some may say devolution. On one hand, we have the cherished memories of Star Frontiers, a universe where philosophical, introspective beings with distinct cultural identities wandered the cosmos, full of nuance and character. On the other hand, we encounter a modern reinterpretation designed to offer limitless creative opportunities, the Plasmoids of Spelljammer. The decision to strip away the rich lore of the Drelosites was driven by both practical considerations, such as trademark limitations, and an evolving design philosophy that prefers flexibility over rigid backstories. While some may mourn the loss of fully realized cultural heritage, others embrace the blank slate as a chance to paint new legends across the vast canvas of space. Whether you choose to resurrect aspects of a canonical philosophy of your own custom lore, or venture down entirely uncharted narrative paths, the story of the Plasmoids is ultimately one of endless potential, a journey waiting to be defined by the adventurer who dares to explore. So, the next time you roll your dice in a Spelljammer campaign, take a moment to appreciate the fascinating evolution of the game. Reflect on how a species known for its poetic musings and intricate culture was reimagined into a malleable, shape-shifting enigma. And above all, remember that in the realm of storytelling, it is our passion and creativity that breathe life into these beings, transforming them from mere game mechanics into legends of the cosmos. It's not their D&D multiverse, it's ours, and only exists because of us. My name is AJ Pickett. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.